And Egypt is a place that I have been wanting to go since I can remember wanting to go anywhere, because it just pulled me. It's a place where civilization really began, especially for people of color. It is a place that exhibits the intelligence and the beauty that is our people. And it shows that we have the right to call ourselves the chosen people, because we are chosen to be the most intelligent, the most beautiful, the most noteworthy. We have developed a culture that encompasses the world. So those are those threads that came from these people that fought from birth to death, that thought how you should live, that gave you a blueprint of how to live, how to be kind, how to be worthy, to walk this earth. And I think that, again, these pieces came from that trip. And the one thing that really struck me about the Egyptian people is their kindness. They think first of being kind. They don't think of being mean or mean-spirited. Egypt is a place where Muslims and Christians all live together in peace and harmony. Unlike pretty much the rest of the world that is fighting and getting crazy, they have kept that way of being peaceful, that way of being kind, that knowledge that kindness is the most important thing. They've kept it for thousands and thousands of years. So that made a huge impression on me, especially coming back to this madness that is the United States of America.
I just want to insert something real quick. I had some African Muslim folk come to visit. One of the things I found as Muslims, from Africa, when they walked past people who wanted, sometimes we have people in the street that are asking for money, they would stop. They would stop and talk between themselves and give them money. And I always found that to be so kind, so very kind. Unlike, some people that don't, or are used to it, should I say that? So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
For the viewer, in terms of the inspiration and emotional resonance, what do you want the viewer, your audience, to get from these pieces? I know you said kindness. I know you said the honoring the legacy of Egypt, Kemet. What other things are you looking at wanting people to take away from this work?
Well, I'm all about color. I love color. And I want people to be able to see that color is an important thing. It can make you feel certain ways. And for myself as an artist, I feel like I take great care in the colors that I use for any one particular piece. Like this piece here, the blue one on the side here in the middle. This piece has to do with the Nubian village, and this is a village that is on the border of Egypt and the southern part of Africa. So it's really, the people there, they look very much what as you would think Africans look. They live in close proximity in a very tribal village, and all of the houses were painted in these beautiful blues and oranges. And I mean, it was just an amazing feast for the eyes. And I think that's really what I want to convey to anyone, is how colorful and how beautiful and how much care that we as a tribal people give to the world. I mean, if you see the kente cloth and the tribal colors that we wear as Black Americans, those pieces were, the first ones were made actually in Denmark or Sweden. They were wax fabrics, but the European people did not know how to accept them because they were so bright and so beautiful. So they sent them to Africa, and we just embraced them. But I think that the colors that I'm using, I hope that people will relate to them in that tribal way and embrace them in the fact that these were colors that were given to us. And we wear colors so very well.
Absolutely, and as you say, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I just want people to be able to look at them, and this picture, it was all a dream. I don't know if you guys could remember all of the guys that I remember in the 90s, the 80s. They wore these amazingly beautiful, colorful sweaters that were so just moving to me. And the fact that this guy could wear this sweater and make it his emblem, his statement, but he's the one that everyone remembers wearing these sweaters. But I can tell you that every guy I knew had one Coogee sweater. And these are expressions that make people feel a certain way. You can't look at him and look at his sweater and not feel him, not feel his presence, not feel his resonance. And I think that the colors that I'm trying to use, I'm trying to make you feel that presence of that Nubian village, feel the presence of this beautiful woman as a queen with her collar that is just amazing. And I just feel like these colors are important, and important for the viewer to feel embraced by this work. So I'm hoping that it is embracing you and washing over you and, you know, making you feel the beauty that color has.
Absolutely. I know we've jumped into talking about the work, which is important, but let's jump aside and talk a little bit about your artistic journey and what has brought you here.
Well, I have always wanted to, I don't know, ever since I first started painting, I've always wanted to see the world. I want to see every part of this world. I want to experience as much as I can experience. And I started traveling when I was probably about 19 or 20. I think the first trip I made to Europe was when I was 20. And I went to Paris and I walked into this amazing museum, the Louvre. And when I tell you that that building is so, it's I guess probably almost at this point about 600-700 years old. So every artist that you think about or know about has been standing in that building, looking at paintings, looking at the same paintings that I'm looking at. And I felt the energy, you feel the energy of all of these people who stood in the space that you're in. So those types of experiences made me understand that in order to be a good artist, you have to put something in front of your eyes. And you have to continue to put something different in front of your eyes to inspire you to continue to create and be creative. So I try very hard to whether it's walking down the street and I'm looking and seeing a flower and noticing how that flower's colors bleed one into another, that these little small experiences always affect my art.
What a great response. I also want to talk about cultures. You know, as you said, you went into the Louvre, and you were also influenced and affected by that. What are some other cultures, in addition to an African culture, African-centered culture, are you influenced by?
Well, I have found out that art, to me, is truly the timeline of humanity. It tells a story of mankind from its inception up to the day that we're sitting in right now. And I began to notice that all of the stories that reflect religions in the world today, and religion is really, to me, basically just man trying to explain his presence on this earth and where he goes after he leaves here. So all of these different cultures have the same stories. They change the names, they change where these events are taking place, but the morals of the stories and the stories themselves are pretty much the same. And it's very interesting to me that the Chinese people on one end of the world and the African tribal people on the other end of the world are thinking the same things at the same time. And they're telling the same stories. So I think that these cultures that we have are intertwined, that we're telling these stories in order to help us to walk through this space and time called life, and that we have given ourselves these stories to explain it, so that we don't have fear, so that we can walk and feel confident that this is not all there is, that there's something else. There's something beyond this, and that to me is what culture is all about, is explaining how we got here, how we should live, and where we go after this is all over.
That was a good moment. So, in understanding with the cultures and its effect and where we go, I guess that's the next question. You know, where do you go from here? What directions and explorations do you want to do next?
Well, where do I go from here? That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I really feel like the next trip I want to take, I'd really like to go to Indochina, to Thailand, to Vietnam, to those countries to see, because I don't really have a good grasp on not only their culture, how they live, but they have very, very, very different take on everything from food to dress, to all of those things. I mean, when you look at Balinese dancers, I mean, why are they wearing these long fingernails? I mean, why are they doing that? You know, there's so many things that go on in those countries that I'd really like to explore a little tiny bit, because I have never been to that part of the world. And I think that would probably like close the circle, you know. I have a very deep connection to circles and dots. I mean, I guess you can see that. But life is like that. It's a circle. So I think that that would be a little bit of a completion of the circle. I think that's really the only place that I really want to see, but I'll take any place that I haven't been.
Have you thought of Australia and the Aboriginal
Well,
circles?
I have a son that lived in Australia for a real long time, and I've never been there. And the only reason that I haven't been there is because I don't like the inception of that country. It bothers me.
Explain that a bit.
Well,
So,
it was a colony that the English used, a place that the English used to dump their prisoners, to dump the people that they didn't want to have. I mean, you got transported to Australia, or you got transported to the New World, which is America. I mean, that's where they sent the people that they didn't want, they felt were not worthy to live in their presence, the king's presence. And most of the people that live there are descended from these criminals. They took the land, they took everything from the native indigenous people and pushed them aside and just, really put them in places where they could barely exist. It was for a long time, the Aboriginal people had to walk on one side of the street and white people could walk on the other side of the street. So I really didn't have a real big interest in going there, but I don't know, I may get there. And also it's the longest plane ride in America, and I don't really relish spending that much time on a plane. I could go to Vietnam or go to Thailand because you can stop in Hawaii and spend the night, a couple of days. You could stop in Tokyo and spend the night, a couple of days, and then get there, Australia is like you're on the plane. And then you're on the plane, And I think the first trip that I took to Europe, I was on the plane so long, and that was only an 8-hour trip, but I was so young and I was on the plane so long, I felt like if I could just walk out on that wing and take a little run, just get outside, and that's dangerous. Yeah, but there you have it.
Oh, I have a couple more questions. And I'm trying to decide which one. Legacy. Let's talk about Greta's legacy in art, in culture, and community.
Well, someone asked me a question yesterday, actually. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I said, well, I would like to be installing a new mural that I created in the Guggenheim. So I will say that my want and my feeling at this point is to have some major works collected by a good museum. And I feel like if that happens, then they may keep it in the back sometimes, but maybe they may rotate it to the front sometimes. And then my little granddaughter could come and see it and say, oh, that's my Gigi's work.
The best thing.
And if that happens, that will make me happy. Because I feel like every time someone speaks your name, that means you're remembered.
Yes.
So I just want her to be able to speak my name, and her daughter to be able to speak my name, and all of that. I find pictures of my grandmother when she was like 18 years old, and I put them together with some pictures of me, just so I could see the resemblance and know, that's who that is. And I feel like that in itself is legacy work. That is my legacy. I am their legacy, and my granddaughter is mine, and her granddaughter will be mine, and her granddaughter will be mine. So I will be remembered. And as long as I can do this work, and someone thinks enough of it to collect it, to want to live with it, it means that is also an extension of my legacy.
Absolutely. These are great answers. One of the things you also mentioned is that you wanted individuals to understand the aspects of creativity and also to have a spiritually fulfilling life. What kind of things, what do you, in terms of, for what you wish everyone to have in terms of having creativity and spirituality and fulfilling in their life? Am I making sense? What are some things that you wish for the individuals that are in here to have a more creative, spiritually fulfilling life?
Well,
Wonderful.
to me, creativity is little small things that you take the time to think about. Like, I happen to love to cook, and I think that cooking to me is therapeutic. It's very creative. It's you eat. At least I do, with my eyes, with my nose. I just think that living a creative life means that you know you have all of these mundane things to do. You have to pay the rent. You have to make money. You have to, I don't know, get up every morning, go to work, clean up the house, brush your teeth and all of that. Wash your clothes, yeah. You gotta do all of those things. But you still have to remember somewhere in your brain to be that kind person, to be that loving person. And to me, to be in love and to love someone and to have someone love you back, that is the most creative thing in the world. So stop and look at the flowers. Stop and look at a color. Stop and look at the shades of a color. Just take those little small moments to be creative. That's a creative moment. Look, I have a friend of mine who's an architect here today. And I think that one of the best things that I ever took in was architecture. Giving people a place to live. I mean, you have to really think about who's going to be living there, and who's going to be in that kitchen, who's going to be doing those things. I mean, just thought is creative. And you have to take the time and a few moments every day, I think, to be experiencing something that feeds your spirit and feeds your soul. Because this mundane things, these things that we must do, if we don't do them, if you don't feed your soul, you can't do them. So I think that's the best answer that I have.
That was perfect. Absolutely perfect. I'm going to open up questions from the floor. If anybody has any questions, first of all, that was fabulous. I love your answer. Thank you, Greta, for the opportunity, the wisdom, and the grace, as always, and the classicness, as always. As always. So, yes, ma'am. Oh, you're gonna.
Can we revisit the legacy question as it pertains to your art, specifically the Grace painting here?
The grace.
Yes.
Well, this piece, I created this piece because I have 2 daughters.
Yes.
Wait, I'm sorry.
And the Graces is a concept of Greek classical art that women, these groups of women, are the arbiters of harmony, music, painting, all of the art and creative things that go on in this world. So usually there are 3 of them. So I cast myself and my 2 daughters in this painting as the 3 graces. And unbeknownst to me, there was another little one who was waiting in the wings. And I created this piece before my granddaughter was born. So she decided to make an appearance in this work. And so this piece in particular, I would say, is a legacy piece, because that is my legacy. They are my legacy. At least the ones that I can see right now. And I think when my youngest daughter was pregnant with the little one, I was working on a job, and a lady came to me, and we were just talking about children, and she said, well, you know, when a woman is born, a female is born, you have a certain number of eggs that are inside of you. That's all you have. You don't get any more. You don't get generated anymore. You only get that amount. So your daughter came from those eggs. And her daughter came from those eggs, which came from you. So if you think about that, you are definitely the product of eons back. So that to me is the basis of this story. And there are 3 pieces in this collection of the Graces, 2 of which were collected already from a show in New York. And this is the last piece in the series. Maybe it's the last piece, I don't know, I'm not sure. But, yeah.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was going to ask, from the initial piece you created, from going to Egypt, to the very last piece that you created for this series, how did your perspective change? How did each one of those pieces, they speak to you emotionally, they have a different story. How did your perspective, in looking at the culmination, how did your perspective from that trip change?
Well, honestly, I didn't have any preconceived notions about that trip. And I try not to have preconceived notions about any trip that I'm making. I try to, like even this event today, okay, I can't really think about how's it going to go, who's going to say what. You have to I have to let my mind stay open to what the universe has to give me. So every piece is a brick in a wall on top of every other piece. So the first painting that I painted is like one part of the story. And each one of these pieces is another part to the story of my life, of my journey through this whole earthly realm. And each one means something, a certain experience that I've had, a certain color that I've seen, a certain piece of music that I've seen, a certain word, a poem, or something that has moved me to create it. And that's what I think what gives me the want to continue to do more, because there's always another book I can open, always another exhibit I can see, you know. I hope that answers your question.
Any other questions? Yes? Mr. Shanae.
Hi everyone, my name is Chinedu Sujuku. I'm an artist and educator myself. First, I would like to congratulate you on just having this artist talk right now. You sound so adventurous, and you use it towards your work and your living, peaceful, and just and it reflects in your work. I have to give you that, because I'm often learning from my environment or wherever I am, and I always have an open mind to receive, so I can just push out. I really like this piece that you're talking about. You know, it's very figurative. And I was going to ask you, how often do you explore what like human figures, like in your work? Because I see like most of your work are like, you know, the portrait. And I feel like each work kind of take that idea of its own. You know, each piece is not the same piece. It's almost like you have like a lot of different palette going on at one time. And I noticed that most of these work was created like really recently. So you're busy.
Well, each piece is its own story. That is absolutely correct. I say that they are all connected, but each piece is like a sentence in that story, okay? A proverb in that book. Each piece tells that particular story. When I went to Egypt, I had a guide when I went to Egypt, and I don't generally do that, but I felt like there was so much that I needed to know, that I needed somebody to help me. And so I had a guide the whole time I was there. And so I was able to ask questions, like if I had a question about something. And she told me this story about the heart, and I'm going to tell it to you. The Egyptians, ancient Egyptians, had the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And that was I would say it's comparable to what the Bible is to you and I. And so it, again, as I said, we are trying to always explain ourselves, how we got here and what we do here and how we leave here. And that's what the Egyptian Book of the Dead does. And there's a spell that's number 125. I believe it's 125. And at this point in your journey to the afterlife, there are 45 judges, and the judges are asking you these questions. And spell 125 says, okay, what have you done in your life, and what have you done, how is your heart? So now we're going to weigh the heart. We're going to weigh it in terms of, is it heavier than a feather? I mean, a feather? So if your heart is heavier than that feather, then that means that you're not going to the afterlife. You're not going to that beautiful nirvana that is there for you. So what you have to do is you have to live a certain way so that when they ask you those questions, you can answer them correctly. You know, and that last piece on the wall, on this side, has to do with that ceremony. And there's always an animal at the end of it who, if you do not have the right spirit to get into the afterlife, he's there to just rip it apart and eat it so that now you can never go. So you must always live in this certain way so that you can continue on, so that your legacy can continue on, so that, you know, your life on this, in this particular realm will mean something to those who come after you. So again, to your question, I have to say that each one of these pieces is a story, is a question for the judges to say, Greta, did you do the right thing? And I'm hopeful that these pieces will say, yes, I did the right thing.
Yeah, most definitely. All the pieces are conversational pieces, you know, and I just want to kind of chat with your head, like after, you know, all of this. But why did you make, is that an alligator?
What?
Is that the last one?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a particular reason why you made an alligator head than any other animal you could have made?
Yes, as a definite reason, that is an animal, his name is Amit. Her name is Amit. And Amit is a crocodile, the 4 feet of a lion, and the back of a hippopotamus. Okay? And these are the 3 animals that the Egyptian people saw on a daily basis. Hippopotamuses lived in the Nile, and they were man-eating, these were man-eating animals that they knew were man-eating animals. So they took those 3 animals and put them together to represent this, in this ceremony of the heart. Because these 3 animals could rip your heart out. And they knew that. So they put them together and said, all right, this is what's going to happen to you if you don't live right.
That is deep. Anybody else have any questions? You mighty quiet there, sister. I know you always got questions.
I haven't formulated one yet.
Greta, I have one for you. Beautiful work. I'm just so captivated by the eyes. There are eyes in almost all of your paintings except this blue one, but I find eyes somewhere there too. But can you just talk a little bit about what the eyes mean to you? Because even within the portraits, outside of that, you see eyes sort of spread around. So, and then they just like pull you into the painting, and they're just gentle but also captivating. So,
Well, I tend to believe that if you're speaking to someone, you need to look in their eyes, because their eyes will tell you a lot about the truth in what they're saying, the sincerity in what they're saying, the how you should answer. It tells you a lot about a person. A lot of people feel unnerved if you look in their eyes. Why is that? Because that's really telling you what they're really saying and how they're really feeling. And so I do have a fascination with them. And then when I went to Europe, to Egypt, if you notice, they have a lot of, their eyes are very, very expressive. It's just a way that I have of being able to recognize people, recognize spirit, is by looking in a person's eyes. I wear a lot of eye beads and bracelets, and because I just believe that there is protection in that. The Egyptian people believed that there was, if you wore those amulets and wore those things, that would protect you from evil. And before I ever went to Egypt, I was working in New York, and all the girls that I worked with, they had little beads around their waist with one little eye bead in the middle. Because we worked with a lot of girls, you know. Women can be very catty. So, you know, you have to have some kind of protection from that, and that's what they were for. So your eyes really, I think, are important to impart the truth of what you're saying and the truth of who you are. So I tend to look people in the eye most of the time, even though they don't feel like I'm looking at them in the eye. I try to look at everyone in the eyes. I've studied people's faces, even when they don't think I'm studying their face.
You speak a lot. You speak this so good. Hold up.
Can you talk a little more about the emotional and historical context of words? This painting.
Words?
Yes, this painting.
This painting is called Words. And I spent a lot of time working on the Jefferson Memorial, and if you go outside and you look at that memorial, you'll see that it looks beautiful and pristine and white and lovely. But it didn't always look that way. It got contaminated with the algae that is in the body of water that it's sitting on, which escapes me right now. But anyway, to make a long story short, Thomas Jefferson wrote 4 paragraphs which are in the Jefferson Memorial. The most famous of which I will say is, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." And they all speak to these lofty ideals that are the basis of this country. Now, I looked at those words every day for probably about 4 months that I was on that building, steaming off that algae with 350-degree water in 98-degree heat. So I looked at them a lot, and I thought about them a lot. And I feel that those founding fathers wrote those words. Thomas Jefferson, who I believe was the most conflicted individual that I have ever heard of, wrote these words and said these things, but did they really believe them? To me, I think they just wrote them. But you see, they made us memorize them. They made us believe them. We are the only ones that believe them. That's why we are where we are today. It's because we believe them. They still don't. It's obvious they don't believe them. I mean, they can't live one day in the context of those words. Well, we have lived every day of our lives in the context of those words. That word freedom was a word that didn't exist in tribal cultures. It only exists because we are here. And there's another paragraph in that building that says that this country is going to have to change because man cannot wear the same pants he wore as a child when he becomes a man. He said that. So it just lets you know that who are the real people here? To me, it is the indigenous people. It is the, or people that were brought here to build railroads and to build this country. We believe those words. So they belong to us. They really don't belong to them. Because in the words of Kendrick Lamar, they not like us.
All right. Any last questions?
Well, out of all of these pieces,
I
like,
can hear you, baby.
out of all of the pieces, which particular piece would you do more of? Would you extend?
Oh,
this
that's
vision?
like asking me, which child do I love the best?
What I was thinking about when you said about, your dream shows to be the Guggenheim, and I was thinking about, like, if there was to be a couple of these ones that you already have, or would you travel more of the that show, just for that show, or would you have some pieces that you already started and just work more based on the conversation that you have had here and within these pieces?
Which particular piece?
Yeah,
It could be like a style.
yeah, the style, yeah.
Which particular style?
Yeah, or would it just be this palette? Would it continue to be this palette? That's your dream show.
I really don't even know how to answer that question. I really don't. I
That
kind
could
of
be a
think,
good answer, because that's something that you can think about while you're in school.
I kind of feel like in every piece that I do, I believe that as an artist, I have to develop a language that people know me by. This is my language. Okay, and I think that truly, as an artist, that is what you really strive for. That's what makes Picasso Picasso, is because he developed the language of Picasso, so that you can look at his work and say that's him, and you know that's him. So I hope that I'm striving to understand what this language is that I've been given, and that I'm depicting it in a way that is always recognizable as being my language. And I think that, that's the route that I'm taking here. And it's an unconscious language, It's something that I picked up from all of the art that I've seen, all of the words that I've read, all of the words that I've written. They all play a part in me being able to impart that knowledge to you. It's not what I see, but it's what I can make you see.
That's powerful. Most definitely put value to your work, like the way you carry yourself and the way you speak openly about your open mind and the feather. I like the theme of the feather. And I think your voice comes out very strong and it goes with your work. I think that's what's so
Authentic, the authentic
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah, that's so original.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I also want to thank Adrian, who does such a fabulous job in supporting artists in this community and recording these conversations. And he's just a good brother. Yeah. And that's a great thing.
I want to say something about Adrian. I love Adrian so much. Adrian is someone that believed in me from the start. I came in here and I had a conversation with him and I said, well, this is what I want to do. And he said, okay. And so we did it. And we've been doing it for a while now. And every time I come here to the Art of Noise, I feel at home. And I want to thank you so much for that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if there's no other formal questions, feel free to stick around and ask Greta and Ms. Carol and or myself any other questions about the work or Art of Noise that you may have. We have more wine back here for you all's consumption. Thank you for Ms. Carol Rhodes. Dyson. Can we give our moderator a round of applause, please? And last but not least, can we give Greta a round of applause, please? Again, we have QR codes situated around the room where you can get additional information about the show. Thank you for coming out, and let's hang. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Good, how are you, sir? I'll do that right now. Thank you. All right. Write your name and your email.
Yeah, I came out to support Greta.
Oh, I'm glad. Thank you.